Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming along to my talk on how to manage your money better in your plumbing and heating business. You're already 2 steps ahead of your competition because you're sitting here today and they're all down there drinking beer. So it's great that you've come along. First up, I need to introduce myself because you're all probably wondering, what on earth does that woman know about how to manage money and what does she know about plumbing? Well, I started my plumbing company 10 years ago. So my husband and myself started a little domestic plumbing company called On Tap Plumbers from Cricklewood. And we have, in 10 years, grown it to a multi-million-pound turnover business that it is today. So during that 10-year period, I have managed to, me and my business, have been finalists, runner-up, and winners of 8 different business awards. I'm also qualified, not in accountancy, though, not in bookkeeping, not in money management, but I have a university degree and a marketing diploma. So my role within our business is the money and the marketing. When my husband started On Tap Plumbers nearly 10 years ago, he was a plumber, but he didn't have all those other business skills. So I brought that extra set of skills so I could run the office side of it, the administration, the money side of it, so he could concentrate on fitting boilers, installing bathrooms, and doing plumbing and heating that he's good at. So this is us in 2010, just me and Raf and our van and him and his tools. And now we have a team of over 50 plumbers working for us. We have an apprenticeship program where we have 10 apprentices working for us. And we work as a mechanical building services company. So we operate in central London working on large-scale contracts, fitting in rainwaters, chilled pipe, all sorts of things. So we focus mainly at the moment on installations and maintenance on the mechanical side. We're always on the lookout for really good subcontractors and plumbers, so if anyone's interested, give me a call later on. So I'm also a woman in construction ambassador, so I'm actively out there trying to encourage young men and women into the industry to fill the skills gap. I'm a columnist for the HVP magazine, and I'm a regular keynote speaker. I've featured on the BBC Breakfast and in the Daily Mail. So I'm out there actively promoting the plumbing industry. The industry, I believe, needs to raise its standards. We need to be more professional, we need to be more reliable, and the theme behind our company when we started out was raising the standards of the plumbing and heating industry. And we did this through a number of different ways, including creating a more customer-centric business. So throughout the period of the company, we went from, as I said, a small domestic firm doing domestic jobs right up into what we do today. Now, you're here to find out about managing the money in a plumbing and heating business. So the definition, money management is a process of expense tracking, budgeting, all those words that are probably a little bit foreign to plumbers and heating engineers. Basically, money is what got us in this business in the first place. It's what keeps the business going, but it's also what can send your business under. So money is ultimately the lifeblood of any business, and especially plumbing and heating businesses. Like plumbers and heating engineers that start up on their own with their business, they don't have the skills or the training to manage money. They didn't learn at school or college about cash flow projections, about budgeting, about expense tracking. They didn't learn any of that stuff, and hey, neither did I, because my qualification wasn't in accountancy or bookkeeping either. But in the last 10 years of running On Tap Plumbers, now ATRA Living, I have learned a lot, and that's why we're still going today. And we haven't been one of the many that go insolvent in construction. Unfortunately, the construction industry has the second highest rate of companies that go under in the UK. So that is 2,792 in 2017. Let's break down that a bit more. 232 a month. 53 a week. 7.5 construction-related businesses go under every single day. And 62% of those are plumbing and electrical companies. So, the reasons why that happens is poor money management. It's not managing your cash flow. It's not tracking your expenses. It's not keeping out for your inventory. It's all those things that don't come naturally to plumbers and heating engineers. But if you can find out a little bit more about it, get some training or get some help, then you can change that very, very quickly. So, I'm sure you've all heard of the Tesco slogan, "Every little helps." And that really resonates with me because for a small business, every little bit helped, but as your business grows, it's really important that you keep track of not only the hundreds or the thousands, but you also keep track of the pennies. So, common mistakes for plumbers and heating engineers. So I was going to run you through a day in the life of what basically my husband went through at the beginning, and probably what a lot of other plumbing and heating engineers go through at the beginning of running their businesses. So the common mistakes that he made was Monday. He's got a job. He's going to install a boiler at someone's house. He heads down to the merchants. He buys his boiler, he buys his parts, he buys everything he needs. Then he goes along to the house, he installs. Done. Job done. Home to me. Tuesday, wakes up. Same thing again. He's got another job. Heads to the merchants. Pays for the materials. Heads out. Does the job. Comes home. And he does this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Friday. Gets to the pub. 5 o'clock. Should be, really. I know sometimes it's 2 o'clock. And he hasn't got enough money to pay for the round. That's because he has been spending all week. He's bought his fuel for his van. He's bought his lunch every day, £10. He's paid for all his materials up front. And he hasn't sent any invoices out, or he hasn't chased any invoices that are to be paid, and he's been spending all his money up front. Common mistakes for plumbers and heating engineers. I'm sure some of you have done that here today. So, we're going to break that down a little bit and look at how we can improve on that. So first and foremost, you wouldn't really consider this as part of money management, but your pricing is really important. A lot of businesses make the same mistakes. They price based on their costs, or they price based on their competition. Now, I would suggest that both of those do come into it, but you also need to consider the value that you're bringing to that customer and how that customer perceives that value. So, rather than competing against 3-4 other plumbing companies, when you're pricing a job, build it as you would the value that you believe you're bringing to the customer. But you also need to make sure the customer understands the value that you're bringing. So, for example, you've sent through your quote and I'd go back one more step. You've sent through a nice detailed quote either on email or on the post. You haven't texted it. You haven't taken a photo of it on your back of your fag pack and you've sent it on WhatsApp. You've actually clearly laid out exactly what it is included in your price. So, also within that, I believe, and this was a policy within our plumbing company, that we didn't discount. We held fast to that. We never discounted our prices. We did not want to be known as that company that the first price was never the price that they were going to be committed to, that you could always cut them down. So we always stuck to our first price. We never discounted, because then also the customer thinks that something's going to be cut out, that they're not going to get that full package, which is usually true. So rather than discounting your price, look for a way to add some value. Customers love freebies. We all love freebies. I walked out of Liverpool Street Station today and they were handing out drinks and everybody was just bombarding them. Everybody loves a freebie, and a freebie doesn't have to cost you much. So that's some way that you can add a little bit of value. Expenses. I don't know about you guys, but that is what used to look like in my husband's glove compartment and on the dashboard of his van. So he would walk in the house with a handful and just dump him in front of me. So here you go, love. And I'm sure that that is what a lot of other plumbers and heating engineers' dashboards look like. And that, unfortunately, is not the best way to track your expenses. There's actually a huge number of different ways that you can track your expenses. And it's really important to track your expenses because at the end of that week, when you've been shelling out and shelling out and shelling out, how do you know how much you've spent if your receipts are screwed up and sitting on the dashboard? So, tracking your expenses. There's a number of different ways that you can do this. I outsourced it. It's not something I enjoy doing. It's not something most plumbers enjoy doing either. So we outsourced it. You can either get a virtual assistant to do it, or you can pay a bookkeeper to do it, and the cost is minimal compared to the amount of time it's going to take you to do it. And if you take how much you earn in one day versus spending an entire day working on your expenses, then you're actually saving yourself a hell of a lot of money by getting someone else to do it. There's another thing that's really useful for plumbers and heating engineers that I'm not sure how many of you know about it. How many of you have ever heard of Receipt Bank? No. So, Receipt Bank is a really, really useful tool for you to track your expenses. It's an app that you download to your phone. You take a photo of the receipt and it uploads automatically into your bookkeeping software. For example, if you use Sage or Xero or QuickBooks, Receipt Bank integrates with it and it feeds straight through into there. So all you need to do when you've parked your van is get the receipt, take a photo, job done. So that's just a little useful tip. Cash flow. So cash flow is probably, I think, the absolute most important thing in any business. And it's the one thing that most people don't do. Cash flow, obviously, is the money that comes into the business and the money that comes out of the business. And it's got a lot of moving parts. We're not just talking about people paying your invoices. We're also talking about those little things that you've bought. You know, that little bit of extra stuff you just popped into the merchants to grab. Cash flow. All of it adds up. So you need to track it. And by tracking it and controlling it, you're going to avoid the following mistakes that a lot of people make. So you'll avoid spending too much money. You will not spend all your money on all these things that are completely unnecessary because you will see it up front and obvious and you'll be able to see exactly what you're spending your money on. So secondly, downtime. Cash flow is really good for those times in your business when there's not that much coming in. You know, those seasonal changes. Everybody's on holiday in August. The phone might not be ringing so much. People definitely don't want a boiler installed usually during that time because they've just shelled out on their trip to the Caribbean. So these mark the downtimes in business. And if you track your cash flow, you can make sure that you will be able to survive through that downtime in your business. Another thing is the tax bill. Sometimes people don't necessarily know how much they're going to have to pay on their tax bills. For example, if you're a VAT registered business, that tax bill after the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, it can actually be quite hefty for a small business, and you hadn't planned for that, and you don't have that money in your business to do that. So HMRC start chasing you and chasing you and chasing you because you haven't paid your VAT bill. So by managing your cash flow, you'll be able to foresee that problem coming up and make sure you have that money set aside in advance. Also, you having no emergency reserves. Again, for the big tax bills, for those things that you need to shell out that you didn't expect that you were going to have to pay for. So cash flow is absolutely key. And cash flow projections. I know that's not a very attractive term to plumbers, but it is absolutely vital. Now, I mean, we're running a multi-million-pound business, so it's a bit different from what it used to be, but I have to do regular, constant cash flow projections. And this is important for us because of the reasons that I've just said, but also if we need more money from the bank, that's the information that they need, that kind of information. They need to see when you think you're going to be able to pay them back that overdraft or that loan or that credit card. That's what they need to see. And you also need to see that as well so that you can budget for those times when everything slows down a bit. Also, when you do a cash flow projection, just a quick little tip, don't base it on invoice dates. Base it on when the actual money is going to come into the business and the money's going to go out. So, for example, you've sent an invoice to a client, and probably not, but say you've got 30 days on it. That money shouldn't be put in your cash flow projection until that 30-day period and the money's actually come in. Should be accounted for in that period. Or, on the other side, say you have a bill from MP Moran's or Wolseley Plum Centre, and that money isn't due to come out. You might be really lucky and have some really extended payment dates, and that money isn't due to come out until 30 days later. That's when you put it in your cash flow projection, not when you got the invoice date in. So, that's cash flow. That's a really, really kind of top-line cash flow projection. I mean, I could do an entire talk on cash flow. So, the next one is budgeting. Budgets are important if you want a Bentley or a Rolls Royce or a Lamborghini. Really important to create a budget within your business. So, budgets are a tool that will help you track your money spending. Always have enough money for the things that you want, like a holiday. And here's a few tips of how you can do your budgets. Start by setting goals. Start with, say, a short-term goal. A short-term goal might be that you want to pay your credit card off. So if you create a budget, you look at how much you're spending, how much you need to spend, how much you can have left over during that month, then you'll know when you can pay that credit card bill off. Medium goal might be you want to go on holiday in August. You might want to go to Ibiza, or you might want to take the family camping in France. So by creating a budget and seeing where your money's being spent or holding your money aside, you'll be able to afford that holiday that you really wanted. Thirdly, you might want a new car. So that might take a little longer to save up for, but by creating a budget, you'll be able to see when you'll be able to afford to buy that car. So, know what you need to live on. That's a really important point. Know what you need to live on, and then make sure you cover yourself, and then you can have that extra money aside. Analyze. So, you've got all these systems and processes and budgets and projections all set up. Probably not. Get someone else to do it. But you've got all that stuff set up. Now what do you do with it? You monitor it. You analyze it. You check it frequently and regularly. So we would check ours probably every week because of the size of our company. But I would suggest that you would probably try to check it fairly frequently as well. And that will show you, give you a really clear picture about the financial situation of your company and how healthy it is. And it'll also help you avoid falling into debt, which can happen really, really quickly. I mentioned earlier an app called Receipt Bank. There's also some other ways that you can do all of these things without you actually having to physically sit down with a pen and paper or learn how to use an Excel spreadsheet. There are a number of different things like technology software platforms that you can use to help you manage your money better. So we started using a system probably about 5 or 6 years ago. It's called Xero. At the time, it wasn't that well known, but now it's absolutely everywhere. And Xero is a New Zealand company, so I had a little bit of, I'm from New Zealand, not Australia, so I had a little bit of affiliation with that brand. So I brought Xero into our company. And what's great about Xero is that for somebody that's not qualified, somebody that's not very good at managing money, somebody that just doesn't have that skill set, it does everything for you. So there's other systems like Xero, there's cash flow, there's also QuickBooks, and basically you can generate an invoice through that system, you can upload receipts to that system, and it create a report so you can actually see a real-time report about how well your company's doing at the click of a button. It's brilliant, it really is. So I would suggest and another thing is it's very inexpensive. It's not expensive to have a monthly subscription to these types of things either. So that, plus a bookkeeper, plus of course everybody needs an accountant, then you should be covered for the growth of your business. And just as a final note, if you're a particularly ambitious plumbing and heating company and you want to take your business to the next level, you'll need financing. When we went from doing small domestic jobs and we were getting paid fairly regularly, so for example, we could get paid on the spot or a week later, now we're on 45-day payment terms with our clients when we do large-scale contracts. So financing is a vital part of construction, and unfortunately due to Carillion, Interserve, that whole statistic about construction industry being the second highest of all industries to go insolvent and into administration, not many people want to finance construction-related companies. So you can really only get financing if your company is in a really healthy position and you can prove it. So if you haven't done any of these things, you haven't got these reports, these projections, these expense budgets tracking, then you're not going to get financing to grow your plumbing company. It's just not going to happen. So if you're an ambitious plumbing or heating business, you need to get all of these things in place so that you can get financing and you can also grow the business into larger scale contracts. Not only do we need that to finance our staff, because we all know whoever employs plumbers here, they like to be paid on a weekly or a fortnightly basis. And that can be a killer if you've done work for an entire month and then you've got to wait another 45 days before your client even pays you. And often, as we all know, they don't pay on time either. So financing is absolutely vital to construction. Just running over those last points I made. Pricing's important. Really think about your strategy. Really think about how you price yourself. Don't try and base your pricing on competition. Don't try and compete on a pricing level, because customers want more than just price these days. They're looking for added value. Expenses. Track your expenses. Take a photo of those receipts. Don't leave them screwed up on the dashboard or the glove box. Take a photo straight away, and then you can just get rid of the receipt. Cash flow. Track your cash flow. Track it coming in and coming out. It's really important so that you can build a picture of your business and prepare yourself and protect yourself for any downturns in the market. Budgeting, as I said, it gives you the ability to be able to put aside money for the future, for something that you want to buy, or for a downturn in the market. By analysing exactly how much you're spending, how much you actually need to spend, a budget is a really good tool for that. Analysing. You need to, once you've got your systems up and running, your processes in place, make sure you monitor it. Make sure you're always looking at it, checking on it, making sure that you're still in a good, healthy financial position, because as I've said, things can turn very quickly when you're doing larger type jobs. Support. There's support out there. It doesn't cost much. It really doesn't. And what the support does, it gives you the ability to do what you want to do. Might be on the tools, might not be, but it gives you the ability to not have to worry about it. You've got it covered, and you can continue to do the things that you enjoy the most. Finally, finance. The only way you're going to get it is if you get all these other things in place first, so you can grow your business. Now, If you're interested in more information on this topic, and we also cover a wealth of other topics, we have what's called the Toolbox Academy. So having gone from running a small domestic plumbing company in 10 years, growing it to a multi-million-pound turnover business, now I'm launching the Toolbox Academy to help other plumbing, heating, electrical businesses grow their businesses as well. So that's the Toolbox Academy. Check it out online. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you found it helpful.